At least from what I've heard, the book this film is based on is quite serious. Well, the adaptation certainly isn't.
I'm gonna make this thing bleed.
Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and to me the Meg felt like a better version of Skyscraper. Of course both look quite different at first, but they are actually very similar. This fun and ludicrous summer blockbuster also starts with our lead guy, in this case the expert sea diver and naval captain Jonas Taylor, played by Jason Statham, at a very tragic incident in the past. Then we jump 5 years to the present day and once again to China. Skyscraper went to Hong Kong, the Meg goes to Shanghai. In one film we are introduced to a high advanced super building, in the other it's a modern deep sea research facility. Both films feel like they belong in the 90s, both are quite dumb and often lazily written, but where Skyscraper tried to be rather serious about what went down in and around that building, even though it was totally over the top, the Meg pretty much embraces its own silliness from beginning to end. It also looked way better and felt more dynamic and just overall more fun. Yes, I think the Meg is actually quite entertaining. Is it very good with an intriguing story, good character arcs and clever dialogues? Absolutely not. But it's a nice throwback to old 90s action disaster films featuring a big ensemble of very different characters who are all rather one note but at least somehow distinct, and if only through one or two silly characteristics. And where I thought Dwayne Johnson was a bit too mellow in Skyscraper, Jason Statham brought exactly that old school badass flavor I want from something like this. It's all super familiar, but so much so that it almost plays like a homage to those old popcorn flicks. Of course his character Jonas is the only one who can save the day. Of course he must be brought back into the action even though he's already over that kind of shit. Of course he let himself go and was constantly drinking until he decides to follow his true calling. Of course, despite all that drinking, he's still completely shredded. And of course there's one scene where he's shirtless, and it's also the one where it's made clear that Bing Bing Lee's character, Su Jin, is falling for him. Oh, and the group of people he has to save first also includes his ex-wife. It's a lot of fun. And speaking about co-star Bing Bing Lee, as I said at the beginning, this is also catered to an international, mainly Chinese audience, and one can be very cynical about that, but I think one can also look quite realistically at it and simply acknowledge that maybe this is the only way we still get such big crazy blockbusters that aren't really connected to a big IP or part of a superhero franchise. Apparently the budget for this was $150 million, which seems to be way too high for my understanding, but I guess it's accurate. And when it's not a familiar brand, it is indeed based on a 21-year-old book by the title Meg, a novel of deep terror, written by Stephen Alton, and there were attempts to bring this to the big screen for many years. At some point Eli Roth was attached to the project, but he left due to creative differences. For example, he wanted it to be R-rated. Which I would have liked a lot, but it's also understandable that they didn't want to go with that. So overall the movie's delivering pretty much what it promises. Maybe with the exception of more open, public mayhem. You see, for the most time that big megalodon, which was hidden under some strange barrier deep in the ocean, is only really concerned with the people of that research facility, and only towards the very end is it heading towards Chinese beaches. It has a similar vibe to it as Tremors, even though it never reaches that level of awesomeness, and to be quite frank, way better storytelling. I don't really want to get too much into its flaws and shortcomings. It's corny, it's sloppy, it jumps from tragedy to comedy within seconds. It's all fine, it actually looks quite decent, and even the 3D was alright. Not that it's worth the price of admission, but it was one of the better ones. But if I have to pinpoint to one specific flaw that bothered me the most, and this also goes back to the Tremors comparison, and to compare to something like Jaws would go a bit too far, it's the lack of good escalation. And what I mean by that is that the film doesn't really flow that well. In a monster movie like this, I want all the scenes, or at least the ones in the second half, to build upon each other. The situation should get worse and worse, resources getting used up, people are being killed, the monster has the upper hand, but our team of misfits is smart enough to come up with new ways of surviving and fighting back. All this made the long finale in Tremors so memorable and also intense, even when it was overall quite lighthearted in tone. The mech has some very fun moments, but it often plays like going to the monster, getting back to safety, going to the monster, getting back to safety, and so on. But I think that's enough for today. In German I'd say, The Mech ist ein netter, unterhaltsamer Monsterfilm, der direkt aus den 90ern stammen könnte. Er ist doof und holprig und nicht gerade spannend, aber durch seine blöde Natur ist er irgendwie auch charmant. I give The Mech 6 out of 10. It's more like 6.1, but I don't do that.
Chew on this, you ugly...
Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about the mech. And also let me know, do you know Tremors? At least the first one, it's really worth your time. You can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram simply at TheJimmyCage. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.